Hey everyone. I never thought I'd be that guy posting his story online, but here we are. My name is Alexander, and at 38 years old, I work as an architect in a firm downtown Chicago, designing sustainable office buildings that rise against the windy skyline, while at home I cherish the stability of my family life with my wife Clara and our 2 children, a curious 10-year-old son named Ethan and an artistic 8-year-old daughter named Lila. We've been married for 12 years, though our relationship stretches back 13, starting from those passionate college days when her self-assured charm captivated me, building what I believed was an unshakable foundation of trust and love. That illusion cracked one crisp autumn evening when I overheard her on the phone in the kitchen, her voice dropping to a hushed whisper that carried through the air like a hidden blade, mentioning a late meeting with a friend, the words slicing into my confidence as I stood frozen in the hallway, the scent of dinner cooling on the stove suddenly turning bitter in my nostrils. The morning light filtered through the sheer curtains of our suburban Chicago home, casting a warm, golden hue across the oak hardwood floors that creaked softly under my bare feet as I padded into the kitchen, the air filled with the rich, nutty aroma of freshly ground coffee brewing in the machine, its steady drip echoing the predictable rhythm of our family routine. I stood there for a moment, watching the steam rise in lazy spirals, feeling the cool tile beneath my toes contrast with the warmth radiating from the nearby radiator, my mind already mapping out the day ahead, dropping the kids at school, reviewing blueprints at the office, and returning to the comforting chaos of homework and dinner preparations. Clara emerged from the bedroom, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun that accentuated her sharp features, moving with that calculated grace she'd always had, her hands smoothing down her blouse as if erasing invisible wrinkles, her smile flashing briefly but not quite reaching her eyes, which seemed shadowed by something unspoken. Our life had settled into a pattern that I trusted implicitly, confident in the love we'd nurtured over 13 years together, 12 of them bound by vows exchanged in a small lakeside ceremony where the wind had whipped her veil like a promise of enduring strength. Ethan and Lila bounded down the stairs, their laughter filling the space with high-pitched echoes, backpacks slung over shoulders, the zipper of Lila's catching on her sweater as she tugged it free with impatient fingers, while Ethan grabbed a banana from the fruit bowl on the granite counter, its peel crackling under his grip. Clara poured cereal for them, the milk splashing into bowls with a soft glug, her movements efficient but distant, her phone buzzing once on the counter, a notification she silenced with a quick tap, her thumb lingering as if debating whether to check it fully. I kissed her cheek, inhaling her familiar perfume, a blend of jasmine and something sharper lately, perhaps a new brand, and she murmured about her day at the marketing firm, vague as always, her eyes darting to the clock on the wall, its second hand ticking steadily. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the living room in deepening shades of amber through the bay window, Clara announced it casually while folding laundry on the couch, the fabric rustling softly under her hands, stacks of Ethan's socks and Lila's dresses piling up like small monuments to our domesticity. "I'm heading out for a bit tonight, meeting with some old friends from work," she said, her voice light but with an undercurrent of insistence, her fingers pausing mid-fold on a shirt, creasing it unnecessarily before smoothing it out. The kids were upstairs, their voices muffled through the ceiling as they played a board game, dice clattering on the floor, and I nodded, my trusting nature accepting it without question, though I noticed how she avoided specifying who or where, her gaze fixed on the television screen flickering with a news anchor's monotone report. Internally, a faint twinge stirred, like a draft slipping under the door, but I justified it as her need for space after a long week, questioning if my own absorption in work had made me less attentive, the warmth of the room suddenly feeling contrived as she slipped her phone into her purse with a deliberate snap. As she prepared to leave, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror, the tube clicking shut with finality, her reflection catching the overhead light that highlighted the faint lines of tension around her mouth, I felt a subtle shift in the air, the house settling into quiet with the kids' bedtime approaching. She hugged me goodbye, her embrace brief, her body stiff against mine, leaving behind that altered scent that lingered like an unanswered query. The door closed with a soft thud, the lock engaging, and I sat alone in the living room, the remote heavy in my hand, flipping channels mindlessly, the laughter from a sitcom sounding forced and hollow. A detail nagged at me, her phone, usually left charging on the nightstand, was now tucked away, and though I pushed it aside, trusting our stable bond, a quiet unease settled in my chest, like the first distant rumble of a storm over Lake Michigan, leaving me wondering if this was just another late night or the harbinger of something concealed in the shadows of our life. This initial moment exemplifies the psychological defense of denial in the face of emerging distrust, where Alexander's confident trust in their 12-year marriage acts as a barrier against subtle red flags like Clara's altered behavior and hidden phone. Emotionally, the quiet unease signals the onset of cognitive dissonance, as his internal justification, attributing changes to her need for space, preserves the illusion of stability, avoiding the pain of potential betrayal. Interpersonally, this highlights how one partner's manipulative secrecy can exploit the other's trust, fostering a power imbalance that erodes intimacy over time. The first warning sign was already here, in the form of vague announcements and avoided details, yet many people choose to remain silent at this point, and in vain, allowing deceit to deepen. Thematically, it underscores the fragility of trust in long-term relationships, where unaddressed anomalies can snowball into profound relational fractures, while Alexander's self-questioning about his attentiveness reveals early seeds of self-doubt, a common precursor to personal growth through adversity. The next few weeks unfolded with a deceptive normalcy, the crisp Chicago winds carrying the scent of fallen leaves through our neighborhood as I drove the kids to school, the car radio humming softly with morning traffic reports, the leather seats cool against my back while Ethan chattered about his science project and Lila sketched in her notebook, her pencil scratching rhythmically against the paper. At work, surrounded by drafting tables cluttered with blueprints and scale models, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and the faint smell of fresh ink from printers, I immersed myself in designs, my confidence in our marriage acting as an anchor amid deadlines, but thoughts of Clara's increasing late nights intruded like uninvited drafts through cracked windows. She'd return home after the kids were asleep, her footsteps light on the stairs, slipping into bed with a sigh that carried hints of exhaustion, or was it guilt, her body turning away from me, the sheets rustling as she settled, her breathing uneven in the dark room lit only by the glow of the alarm clock. One afternoon, as I picked up groceries from the local market, the fluorescent aisles filled with the beeps of scanners and the earthy aroma of fresh produce, my phone vibrated in my pocket with a text from Clara, another meeting with friends, that evening, her words curt, no emojis like before. Hope flickered that it was just work stress, but worry gnawed as I loaded bags into the trunk, the plastic crinkling under my grip, frustration building when she dodged my call later, her voicemail greeting clipped and professional. That night, she came home later than usual, the front door creaking open around midnight, her heels clicking softly on the entryway tiles as she tried to be quiet, but I lay awake, heart racing subtly, noticing how she fumbled with her purse, her hands trembling slightly in the dim hallway light filtering from the street lamp outside. The secrecy with her phone escalated, always face down on surfaces now, notifications silenced, and when it rang during dinner one evening, the table set with steaming pasta, forks clinking against plates, the kids laughing at a joke, she excused herself to the other room, her voice muffled through the wall, a furtive glance back at me before closing the door with a gentle click. Her behavior shifted suddenly, more makeup, new clothes that hugged her figure, her laughter forced when recounting her day, eyes not meeting mine, fingers twisting her wedding ring absent-mindedly. Internal conflict raged, trust urged me to believe it was a phase, perhaps midlife restlessness, but suspicion grew, fear tightening my chest like a vice, anger simmering beneath as I recalled our vows, doubting if my stability had bored her. A small mystery arose when I found a receipt in her coat pocket while hanging laundry, the paper crisp, dated for a upscale bar downtown during one of her meetings, the amount higher than expected for friends, my pulse quickening as I pocketed, hope waning into frustration. The discovery of the receipt marks a critical escalation in suspicion, illustrating the psychological shift from passive hope to active doubt, where physical evidence pierces Alexander's denial and triggers a physiological response like a quickening pulse, indicative of anxiety's fight-or-flight activation. Emotionally, this blends frustration with waning hope, reflecting the highs and lows of Betrayal's emotional roller coaster, as he grapples with fear of overreaction versus the anger of possible deceit. Interpersonally, Clara's evasive excuses and nervous gestures exemplify manipulative blame-shifting, maintaining control by gaslighting, which corrodes mutual respect and amplifies isolation. A typical mistake is to think that this is just a phase, dismissing inconsistencies as stress-related, but here it evolves into a pattern revealing her self-centered nature. Consequences of such betrayal include eroded self-esteem for the betrayed, fostering hypervigilance that strains daily life. This event plants seeds for personal growth, pushing Alexander toward introspection about overlooked signs, transforming naive trust into wary discernment, though at the cost of immediate heartache. At work, a colleague's offhand comment about his own marital woes amplified my tension. Our lunch conversation in the break room, sandwiches unwrapped with crinkling foil, coffee steaming, leaving me distracted, staring at my screen, the cursor blinking mockingly. Back home, Clara's excuses flowed, just catching up with old colleagues, her smile tight, hands gesturing vaguely, but her nervous fidgeting, delayed responses when questioned, fueled my growing distrust, the house feeling colder despite the humming furnace, my heartbeat echoing in the silence as I lay alone, sensing the unraveling threads of our bond. Determined to confront my suspicions, I began observing more intently, the moral dilemma weighing heavy as I sat in my home office late one night, the desk lamp casting a focused beam on scattered papers, the room smelling of aged wood from the bookshelves lining the walls, my breaths shallow as I debated invading her privacy. Trust battled suspicion in my mind, pain twisting with determination, but the inconsistencies, late nights, phone secrecy, pushed me forward, my fingers hovering over my laptop keyboard before typing a search for private investigators, the screen's glow illuminating my tense face in the quiet house, the distant tick of the grandfather clock marking time like a countdown. I hired one discreetly, a no-nonsense professional named Mark, meeting him in a dimly lit coffee shop downtown, the espresso's bitter steam rising between us as he outlined his approach, his notebook flipping with a soft rustle, my heart pounding with a mix of guilt and resolve. Small victories came slowly. He tailed Clara during her next meeting, reporting back via encrypted email, but setbacks hit when she changed plans abruptly, perhaps sensing something, a red herring that made me question my paranoia. Internally, anger mixed with disappointment, my hands clenching the steering wheel during commutes, the city traffic honking around me, cold air seeping through the vents. One evening, as Clara left again, her car pulling away with a low rumble under the streetlights, I followed at a distance, navigating obstacles like sudden red lights and merging lanes, tension building in the cat-and-mouse pursuit, my palms sweaty on the wheel. At home later, while she showered, the water running with a steady hiss, I checked her unlocked phone left on the dresser, the dim screen revealing vague messages to an unknown contact, allusions to our spot, but nothing definitive, my thumb scrolling slowly, breaths paused, nervous gestures betraying my fear of discovery. Clara began noticing my suspicion, her defenses mild at first. Why so many questions? She'd ask over breakfast, her eyes narrowing slightly, spoon stirring coffee with deliberate circles, the kids oblivious as they munched toast. A dramatic element unfolded when Mark delivered initial findings, photos of Clara at a hotel with a man, bank statements showing unexplained withdrawals, financial betrayal stinging like salt in a wound, and cryptic messages hinting at manipulation. The evidence piled in a folder on my desk, the paper cool under my fingers, but the cliffhanger came with his promise of an audio recording soon, leaving me in tense silence, determination hardening amid the pain, the house's shadows deepening as I pondered the next step. Hiring a private investigator and accumulating evidence represents a moral turning point, where Alexander's internal conflict between preserving trust and seeking truth embodies the psychological dilemma of ethical boundaries in betrayal scenarios, his shallow breaths and hesitant actions revealing guilt over privacy invasion amid growing determination. Emotionally, mixed feelings of anger, pain, and disappointment coalesce into resolve, as setbacks like red herrings heighten uncertainty, mimicking grief's bargaining stage. Interpersonally, this cat-and-mouse dynamic exposes Clara's deceitful patterns, her mild defenses signaling awareness of scrutiny, which intensifies the power struggle and underscores manipulation's role in relational decay. The first warning sign was already here in earlier secrecy, but ignoring it led to this investigative escalation, prolonging emotional turmoil. Consequences include deepened vulnerability, as financial clues hint at broader betrayal, eroding not just emotional but economic security. Yet, this catalyzes personal growth, shifting passive confidence to proactive agency, teaching the value of evidence over blind faith, though it risks further entrenching cynicism if unprocessed. The climax arrived on a rainy Chicago evening, the downpour pattering against the windows like insistent accusations, the living room lit by flickering candles on the mantel that cast wavering shadows across the walls, their wax scent mingling with the earthy smell of wet soil from outside as I confronted Clara after the kids were asleep upstairs, their bedroom door creaking shut earlier with bedtime stories. I laid out the evidence on the coffee table, the photos from the PI showing her with the man, arms linked in a hotel lobby, bank statements revealing siphoned funds for lavish outings, messages exposing her deceit, the papers scattering slightly as my hand trembled, the room's tension thick, door sounds muffled by the storm. "Why, Clara?" I demanded, my voice low but cracking, pausing as I paced the rug, its fibers soft under my socks, watching her face pale under the candlelight, her eyes widening in shock, body sinking into the couch, hands clasping tightly in her lap, knuckles white. She stammered, it's not what it looks like," tears welling, her voice rising in pitch, blame shifting immediately. "You've been so distant with work, I felt lonely," her gestures wild, palms up in feigned innocence, but gaslighting ensued, "You're imagining things," her feet shifting uncomfortably, avoiding my steady gaze. The unexpected twist shattered everything, the audio recording from the PI, played on my phone, the tinny sound filling the space, capturing her manipulative whispers to her lover about draining our savings for their escape, revealing not just infidelity but calculated financial betrayal, her self-centered plans laid bare. The audio revelation during confrontation serves as the emotional apex, shattering illusions through undeniable proof, psychologically evoking the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, shock transitioning to rage, as Alexander's clenched fists and maintained composure mask repressed fury, adaptive response to volatility but potentially leading to internalized resentment. Emotionally, the dual betrayal of infidelity and financial manipulation amplifies feelings of foolishness and isolation, with Clara's gaslighting and blame-shifting exacerbating turmoil by deflecting accountability. Interpersonally, this exposes her self-centered core, turning the relationship into a battleground where power dynamics favor the deceiver until confronted, highlighting how manipulation preys on trust. A typical mistake is to think that this is just a phase, but the calculated escape plans mark a point of no return, with consequences rippling to family stability and financial ruin. This fosters husband's growth, realizing control over responses rather than actions, transforming devastation into empowerment, though the immediate swings from rage to resolve underscore the arduous path to healing. "How could you?" I whispered, struggling between rage and composure, fists clenching at my sides, jaw tight, rain underscoring the drama with rhythmic taps. She panicked, sobs racking her frame, excuses tumbling. "I didn't mean to hurt you," but her fear morphed into deflection, blaming me for our core problems. In that moment, clarity hit. I could only control my actions, not her deceit, the realization empowering amid the despair, my emotional state swinging from rage to shock, disappointment settling like lead, resolve hardening as I declared, "This ends now," the confrontation leaving me drained, the candles guttering low, faces illuminated in harsh relief, her trembling hands reaching out futilely as I turned away, the creaking floorboards echoing my steps toward irreversible change. In the aftermath, Clara's reactions veered wildly, tears pleading for forgiveness one day, anger accusing me of overreacting the next, her manipulative pleas echoing through the house during tense evenings. "Think of the kids," her hands grasping my sleeve, nails digging faintly, but I pulled away, heart calming gradually amid the storm. Family impact rippled outward. My parents offered quiet support over phone calls, their voices crackling with concern, while her relatives bombarded me with texts blaming my rigidity, adding guilt that I navigated with resolve. The emotional toll manifesting in sleepless nights staring at the ceiling fans were moral dilemmas about the children's stability weighing heavy. Legal consequences loomed as I filed for divorce, consulting lawyers in sterile offices smelling of polished wood and coffee, papers shuffling under expert hands outlining asset division, the financial betrayal, thousands siphoned, stinging like fresh wounds, court proceedings looming with affidavits and evidence. Small victories sustained me, securing temporary custody arrangements, the judges not affirming my stability, interspersed with setbacks like Clara's attempts at reconciliation, flowers arriving at work wilting quickly on my desk, mirroring fading illusions. Inner conflicts raged, struggling with betrayal's pain, questioning if I could have seen it sooner, but clarity emerged during a solitary dawn walk in the park, the sunrise painting the sky in soft pinks, fresh air filling my lungs with a first breath of freedom, muscles relaxing, lightness spreading through my body as I decided to let go, refusing destruction. With minimal words, I informed her, "It's over," the door closing behind her final visit with a symbolic thud, relief washing over me like the morning light, confidence building in my path forward, hints of resolution in the quiet house now echoing with the kids' laughter alone. Alexander's decision to end the marriage and pursue divorce encapsulates post-betrayal empowerment, psychologically rooted in resilience, where physical sensations like relaxing muscles and calming heart symbolize somatic release from chronic tension, marking the transition from victimhood to agency. Emotionally, relief and clarity supplant inner conflicts, as legal battles and family pressures test but ultimately affirm his boundaries, countering Clara's volatile pleas with firm resolve. Interpersonally, enforcing separation prevents codependency, illustrating how betrayal's consequences, financial loss, custody fights, can redistribute power, protecting the children from manipulation. Many people's consequences include short-term guilt but long-term confidence, emphasizing that refusing destruction through detachment paves the way for healthier dynamics and emotional freedom. Months later, the divorce finalized in a hushed courtroom, the gavel's echo marking closure. I gained primary custody of Ethan and Lila through proceedings that highlighted Clara's instability and manipulation, establishing firm boundaries with supervised visits, my emotional detachment complete as I focused on our new life in a smaller but brighter home. Morning light streaming through kitchen windows illuminating steam from coffee as I prepared breakfast, the bitter warmth grounding me. Independent now, I embraced new habits, weekend hikes along the lakefront, the crisp air invigorating, waves lapping rhythmically, hobbies like woodworking in the garage, sawdust scent filling the space, tools humming satisfyingly, and dinners with friends, genuine laughter unburdened by deceit. Freedom brought confidence, no longer ensnared by her self-centered webs, inner growth blooming through therapy sessions where I unpacked the betrayal, understanding how my trusting nature had blinded me to red flags. Reflecting on lessons learned, the core problems of infidelity, financial deceit, and manipulation taught me vigilance in relationships, personal empowerment in self-reliance, the pain transforming into wisdom without lingering anger. In quiet moments, sipping coffee on the porch, birdsong piercing the air, simple joys like Lila's drawings pinned to the fridge or Ethan's soccer games filled me with calm strength, a slight hope for future connections. Overall, this ordeal revealed psychological truths. Betrayal erodes trust insidiously, manipulation preys on confidence, but confronting it fosters resilience and growth, leaving a sense of cathartic closure, empowered and at peace. Across the narrative, betrayal unfolds as a corrosive force eroding trust through denial and manipulation, with Alexander's journey from confident stability to empowered resolution underscoring psychological resilience amid emotional devastation. Themes of denial reveal how overlooked signs compound into irreversible consequences, like financial ruin and family upheaval, while Clara's deceitful traits highlight interpersonal imbalances that exploit vulnerability. Personal growth emerges as the redemptive thread, transforming pain into self-reliance and boundary setting, teaching that trust must be vigilant, not blind. Emotionally, the story warns of lies compounding isolation, advocating confrontation over silence to foster healing. Ultimately, it affirms that while betrayal inflicts profound wounds, navigating its aftermath cultivates wisdom, strength, and hope, leaving Alexander detached yet enriched, a testament to human adaptability in the face of relational collapse. Thanks for watching Betrayal Stories. If you've ever lived through something that broke you but ended up freeing you, share it in the comments. And for a fun twist, tell us what's one event in world history you wish you could have witnessed firsthand. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real stories with unexpected endings.